Afternoon, everybody. I'm Maggie Telfer. I'm the Chief Exec here at Bristol Drugs Project, more widely known as BDP. We see around 3,000 adults and children and young people every year. And the brief I was given was to talk about some of the challenges from through the pandemic and our kind of particular plans for the future. So just to kick off about what we did during the pandemic, we did some things differently, and we did some very different things. So it's important to us because much of what we do can't be done virtually. We work with lots of people who don't have access to a computer, many people who don't have a phone, people can't afford data. And we all know that more than kind of half of communication is non-verbal. So once you're into a virtual world, you're losing a lot of kind of quality, and quality matters for us. So lots of things we did differently. We helped people to self-isolate by delivering medications, particularly during the first lockdown, and we're continuing to do that. We also kept a lot of socially distanced face-to-face contact because of the importance of that non-verbal communication. So we did home visiting to our 50+ group, who are particularly vulnerable, to some of our children and young people who again are in homes where not going to school, nobody has eyes on them. Again, supporting them and their families through socially distant visits, and bringing back small groups as soon as we could after the first lockdown. So, for instance, our PRISM LGBT+ group getting back up and running, Women's Morning getting back up and running, and our over 50s getting back up and running. I also just wanted to highlight one of the things that we did was different, which was supporting people to detox from alcohol using alcohol. Initially, this was introduced to avoid life-threatening withdrawal. It was, opportunities to raise money for alcohol dried up very fast. Lots of shops were closed. It was difficult to buy alcohol. And so in order to stop people going into withdrawal and possibly hospital, we started providing people with alcohol. Actually, 12 people used that to complete an alcohol detox. It wasn't the original intention that 12 people actually did that. And many of those people had lots and lots and lots of previous medically assisted detoxes. And there's something about the pace of the detox and the control that people had over that offered people something different, which hadn't worked for them before. And I just wanted to share briefly one person's comments about their experience of that. So this is Jan, who's been alcohol dependent for more than 20 years. And this was him reflecting on his detox and 6 months abstinence. And he said, I tried detox many times on my own, like Sisyphus rolling the stone up the mountain. I was so sick, staff helped me drink to stop me dying. Everyone was looking out for me and helping me control my drinking. I feel my power back. I still have good and bad thoughts in my head. I go to Polish AA, but I have a room in a house. I have my papers and I'm alive. And he actually started that beginning of the pandemic thinking he might not survive it. So that was something we did differently. So where are we now? Current and future, as nighttime economy has opened up again and we're back in it. So we've been regularly at Motion. We're at Lakota's early July festival, and we'll be at Love Saves the Day on this weekend. That's about helping get good harm reduction information out to young people who are using a whole range of substances, MDMA, ketamine, cocaine, often in combination, and particularly for younger adults, it might be the first time that they've been doing that. so out there to help people keep themselves and their friends safe. We've got lots of new things on this year. So we're going to be developing a respiratory and renal health offer. We know that many people who are losing their lives have very poor respiratory health, often not diagnosed properly, so not treated properly. So one of our priorities is to get people properly diagnosed and be able to reduce the kind of the risks they run for poor untreated respiratory health. Nasal naloxone, we're going to be piloting that. It's we know that there's a lot of naloxone given out in Bristol, but we also know that a lot of people don't carry it. So this is an attempt to get it out as widely as possible. Intensive family support, this is something we haven't been able to do for a number of years, but putting back in place. This is supporting families where there are safeguarding concerns. Our focus is on helping people be parent first, person with drug or alcohol issue second, and make sure that we can get their safeguarding stepped down. And fantastically, we interviewed 2 weeks ago, and after a fallow year, for obvious reasons, we've recruited 6 new trainees with lived experience. We very purposefully recruit people who have a recent lived experience of treatment and who have really major challenges to getting work through any other route. So they're starting at the end of the month, that's fantastic. For children and young people, we're about to start offering an alternative to school exclusion. For at the moment, if you're found in possession of cannabis in school, you're likely to be excluded. And there are lots of young people out there who are excluded from multiple schools. There's a new policy coming in place, which will mean that seeing one of our youth workers becomes an alternative to that, which has got to be good news for everyone. Priorities and ambitions for the rest of the year, they're in many ways the same kind of ambitions we have every year, because they're not solved. So continuing to do Hep C testing, we've really increased that this year, and getting as many people into treatment as possible, because we know that that will save people's lives. It will give them a quality of life that, if it's untreated, will be kind of undermined. Really importantly and very poignantly today, sadly, someone died today, and they hardly touched the treatment system in Bristol at all. There's a little bit of criminal justice contact. There are appointments made and not kept with very long breaks. And actually, our ambition here at BDP is to make sure that we get more people in touch with treatment services and support, and therefore the opportunity for recovery. And this person's experience just highlights really how important that is. We have masses of people who have needs in relation to their drug and particularly alcohol use, who simply don't get anywhere near services, and we've all got to do much better to improve that. And then my final point, which is really important to me, really important to us as an organisation, is reducing stigma. You know, drugs and alcohol affect all areas of our lives, but therefore they're often everyone's issue, but nobody's responsibility. And stigma is alive and well everywhere, and stigma alive and well, and often completely drugs and alcohol are invisible. And I just want to finish with drawing your attention, because I was very shocked, to Bristol City Council's new corporate strategy. It's 2022 to 2027. It's out for consultation, and it mentions drugs once, it mentions alcohol once, and they are mentioned in the glossary as a definition of an as part of an adverse childhood experience. And this corporate strategy will direct all elements of the City Council's service delivery an activity for 5 years, and it's not good enough that it doesn't focus on two of the key issues that affect our city, which are drugs and alcohol. Please get onto the consultation and let's get drugs and alcohol writ large in that key document. Thank you very much.